Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today we're discussing a 2009 model year limited edition 400 pieces in beautiful matte brushed steel. This is the Breitling Navitimer Limited Edition Panda dial, brushed case, bracelet to match. This is one of the best Schneider family era Breitling Navitimers. It's nicely sized too. 42 millimeters in diameter, 14.5 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, if we're just measuring the case, 48 millimeters. End link to end link, the total distance across the wrist is 49.1 with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now when I throw the watch on my wrist, you can see it's a good fit. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and looking down the barrel, I've got a little bit of room to play here. So even if your wrist is 15 centimeters circumference, I think you're gonna wear this well. Not super thin, not super thick, you're fine with the jacket cuff. Maybe the tightest shirt sleeves would fail to clear. From over the top, which exaggerates the width of a watch, I'm pulling it tight, you can still see the lugs are not over the edge. One more time down the barrel just to gauge fit. A really nice watch. It's got the classical Navitimer bracelet, the 7-link design, whose links have a diagonal orientation. Only here it's satin finish to match the watch for a wonderful upscale muted look. This actually looks more expensive than Breitling's all polish all the time general practice. This looks incredibly premium. There's a conforming end link to better mate it to the case profile. Then we have a little bit of a taper down towards the clasp with removable links on both sides fixed by screws. There are 4 sets of divots inside the clasp, so with your strap tool you can dismount the spring bar and change the anchoring point. This is the only part that's polished. It's the clasp internal. You won't see it when it's on the wrist. And then we've got a clamshell lock so you can close everything up and keep it secured. And Breitling has thought of everything. In case this component ever loses its tight tolerance, that is, it starts deforming or wearing down, this clamshell can be removed by unfastening those screws and replacing it during service. Taking a quick look at the case, you can see it's classical Navitimer, which is to say it has a very vintage aesthetic. There's a nice thin, narrow case band, minimal beveling on the lug profiles, a squared off end, vintage style pump pushers, a Breitling B on the crown. This is a really cool look that has aged remarkably well, and you can really see that because the case is stepped in somewhat, when it's on your wrist it looks a lot thinner than it actually is. Now we've got the calculator bezel. The Navitimer, depending on who you believe, was a 1952 or a 1954 release. Breitling's official position is 1952. What is not in dispute is that compared to Breitling's own 1940s chronomat, the circular slide rule on the Navitimer was more capable, able to be used by pilots for all the calculations necessary during flight. It's mostly there to help calculate rates, so rate of climb, drift, fuel consumption, airspeed, ground speed. It's there for all of the above. It's primarily for multiplication and division, and we'll demonstrate how this works. It's very simple to use. You just need to keep your decimals in mind because it doesn't give them to you. So let's say I want to divide 50 by 2. So I'm going to do this like a fraction. There's 50 on the outer scale. Like I said, it's a fraction. And with a fraction, you put the number to be divided over the number dividing it. So 50 divided by 2, right there. And then you look at the inner index. The inner index is this red 10. And sure enough, 50 divided by 2 is 25. Now let's say I want to multiply 17 by 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the number to be multiplied, and I'm going to put it over the index at 10. Now I'm going to find 2 on the inner scale. So we go back to 2. Sure enough, 17 times 2, it's going to be 34. Just like that. That's how that works. Okay. It's also colorful, and it adds depth to the dial. I like to put the 60 at 60. All right. You can also see that statute miles, nautical miles, kilometers, those are there to help you estimate if you are using it as a calculator in flight. You can also see inboard of that, there's a tachymeter scale. So a second scale for the chronograph. This one can be used to estimate speed. It is calibrated to 1,000 meters, so in general it's going to be used to gauge the speed of something moving fairly fast, unless you're good with mental decimals again. And generally, it is over 1 kilometer that you will time something, and then you will stop the chronograph, and you'd see, like, if the kilometer were completed visually when that hand is pointing at the tachymeter scale there, the object that I was observing would have been moving at about 240 kilometers per hour. So that's how that works. There is lume. We're going to take a look at it now. And you can see the watch has a really attractive combination of a dial that is in sort of a metallic ivory or cream, and then it has sunken blackened registers for a really upscale and unique take on the Panda dial. You can also see we have a Breitling B and an anchor counterweight on the seconds hand, which has a red arrow index, varnished red, and applied and polished individual hour indices. We also have a faceted frame for the date. Note that this is based on not a Valjoux 7750, but a 7753, which turns the orientation of the 7750 to look like a conventional balanced chronodial. The one side effect of that is that you do lose the quick set capability, which is a little bit unusual. So you lose the quick set capability, and Breitling has removed the clutch position for the date on this crown. So we do have hacking seconds. We do not have a quick set date, but we get a nice balanced, aesthetically pleasing dial as part of the bargain. Now on the reverse of the case, you can see various conversion factors, and you can use those if you are an aviator. It is a conversion of temperature, Fahrenheit to Celsius or centigrade. You can see this is A, that means steel, acier. 23 is the movement, and then the second 3 means it is a chronometer certified 23. So 23 is a 7753, 5-position adjusted in chronometer grade. You can see semi-instantaneous jumping minutes. It is a hacking seconds watch with 42-hour unidirectional winding power reserve, a 4 hertz beat rate. So a certified chronometer, a very tough movement in addition to being a very accurate movement. It features a cam action for selecting the chronograph functions, and then it features what's called an oscillating pinion, which is a very low play type of lateral clutch that's germane to 7750 architectures. The funny thing is these days you're seeing oscillating pinions become very popular with super high-end brands like Richard Mille, FP Journe, and Debatun, because they give you the traditionalism of a lateral clutch. But notice every time I activate this chrono, press and hold, there's hardly any jump because an oscillating pinion has less play than conventional lateral clutch. This watch offers a lot. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. One more quick detail. I know we often take it for granted on Navitimers, but just in case you were wondering, 30 meters water resistant.